Good morning, everyone. I hope that you've had a really great weekend. This week and for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be doing a series on vulnerability. And Brene Brown talks about her 4 myths of vulnerability that came out of the research that she did when she was looking at courage and worthiness, empathy, vulnerability, and authenticity. So the first one this week is, the first myth is that vulnerability is weakness. So for those of you who don't know, the definition that Brene came up with out of her research of what vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. So if we think about that definition and then we look at the 4 myths, it makes sense that these myths are exactly that, myths about vulnerability. So the first one for this week is vulnerability is weakness. One of the biggest things that Brene found in her research is that any time that people shared vulnerably, it's a hard word to say, they also found that there was always courage that came with that. So the fact that and it's true, most of us think when we first think about vulnerability, if we've never heard about vulnerability being strength, is we automatically think that it's weakness. We think about people in our society who are deemed vulnerable. And often those people are people who, who maybe are struggling in life, and so they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to being hurt, or they're vulnerable to getting sick, or whatever it is. But actually, if we look at that definition of vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure, number one, it makes sense that it's scary. But number 2, there is a sense of strength in that. If you're stepping into the unknown or the uncertainty of life, if you're taking a risk, if you're opening yourself up to feeling emotionally exposed, all of that is actually strength and courage. And so one of the cool things about Brene's research and this myth is that when they looked at the research and the data, they found that anywhere that someone was being vulnerable, that they were also, it was actually a really courageous act. And the same thing, that when people were choosing courage, that actually they were exposing themselves to that sense of uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. So this week, the myth is that vulnerability is weakness, when actually it is strength and courage. So as you continue to listen through our series in the next 4 weeks, sign up to get emails, and you get a little bit of information extra as well there. And ask any questions at all in the comments below, or reply to the email. I'm really happy to have more of a chat with you, or conversation online about that. So vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is strength and courage. I hope that that's got you thinking this week about the times when you feel like you're sharing vulnerably, how that is actually strength and courage in your world. So look after yourselves this week. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.